Plenty of sleep. All right, so Ron Paul on the GOP pile-on, former congressman, presidential candidate, joins us now. Congressman, I don't know if it's kabuki theater. I don't know if it's just, a haunted house here, but nothing seems to be happening. Is it a big deal?
Well, on a day-to-day basis, I don't think it's too big a deal because, closing down unessential services isn't a big deal. I think long-term it's a very, very big deal, and we're marching that way. But I think they won't acknowledge what the big deal is. And that is that we can't afford it. For the last 50 years, up to, the big bust in 08 and 09, Republicans and Democrats did pretty well. They fought and argued. But the country still produced enough revenues, and it was still productive enough that you could, you give me my stuff, and I'll give you your stuff, and they got together pretty well. But the world is different now because we're down to the end where it's just not there, and the markets are fragile. And this is what happens. And I've always predicted that, the pie is getting smaller and they're fighting over what's left of the pie. And it gets to be very personal. But they won't address the subject of the big bankruptcy, nor the other big factor is what should the role of government be? As long as they will not even address the subject, can we have endless welfare spending, including Obamacare? Can we have endless overseas spending? Can we have endless monetizing debt with the Fed and think this is going to continue? I think the answer is no, but they won't even talk about it.
No, they won't. They don't even agree on the little things. Do you know, I know you've been part of some of these things in the past, but when they meet, when all sides meet in a room and nothing comes of it, do you have any idea what they do in that hour and a half? I'm just curious. Obviously, they didn't find any common ground, or so it would appear. So I don't know what they talk about. Oh, you're going to watch the game tonight? Do you think the Red Sox have a chance? What are they?
They probably do that. I've never been in one of those real important meetings. My meetings were with smaller groups.
You sell yourself short, but I saw Speaker Boehner come out and then Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi. No Mitch McConnell, which was weird, but that's just me. But they all had this grim face, like nothing's going to happen. And the Democratic participants, all the way up to the President of the United States in an interview today, seemed to warn that much more dire stuff was coming down the pike, including a debt crisis that could lead to a solvency crisis or a U.S. default. That is pushing back the debt ceiling. And if we don't do that, what do you make of that?
Well, they use that as a threat, and that eventually will be what happened, but I don't think it's on October 17th because, they can pay the interest and do these things. And look, we've been over the debt limit since May, so
right.
They just ignore it and they fudge it.
Well, what is the default, just to be clear, because I always want to make people at home clear of this, Congress, and I agree with you that there's a lot of fear-mongering going on. You're really technically only in default if you don't make good on interest payments to bondholders. And I would imagine that we sort of reprioritize, if we ever get to that position, to make sure we don't do that.
Yeah, they're going to do it. They are not going to default. All governments like ours, when they get this big and this much debt, they default, but it's said by defaulting by giving them money with less value, and they're very good at that. But they're not going to not send the checks out. Besides, just think of what happened in 09 when the financial system worldwide was collapsing. The Fed was involved with trillions. Some people estimate up to $15 trillion in secret. They were able to bail out banks, foreign governments, foreign central banks, and nobody even knew what they were doing. So are they going to allow our Treasury bills, the interest, not to be paid? They're capable of doing whatever they want to do, and all they have to do is write an executive order or have the Fed do it or whatever.
Well, that's what might happen. You're right. The president can always intervene and say, that's it. And he'll let the lawyers argue it out.
If they don't even come to Congress, for a declaration of war, and Obama was always proud of the fact, I don't need to go to Congress for that. I want these regulations on environment. I'll just do it. I'll write the regulation. So they are arrogant. They're out of control. And that's why we have to have the basic question asked, what really do the people of this country want their government to do? Do they want to spend all this money, or do we want a government that's limited in scope and the protection of liberty and protection of the markets and have a sound currency and a strong military to defend our country? But they're not asking that question. They're saying, how are we going to pull this off? And how many, are we going to go to $90 billion or 120, to keep this thing going of monetizing this debt? At the same time, the Congress is working on the absolute assumption